Welcome to another episode of Bit of the Binge, a show where I talk about the shows that I'm binge watching and whether or not you should binge watch them. And today I'm going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 1, a new show on Netflix. There will be some mild spoilers. The basic premise of Stranger Things is a small town is shaken by the sudden disappearance of a young boy. But as they investigate his case, another child with a mysterious past appears. There's certainly more to this sleepy town than meets the eye, including something terrible lurking in the dark. The show stars Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, and Matthew Modine. And the show is created by the Duffer Brothers. It's very obvious right off the bat that this show relies heavily on 80s nostalgia. It's the sort of thing that might be referred to as nostalgia porn. It's certainly inspired by Stephen King movies and stories, as well as Steven Spielberg movies. The big reason you know that this is 80s nostalgia is that the kids are the heroes. It's certainly a kid-centric adventure mystery story, with Eleven being the center of this whole thing, played by Millie Bobby Brown. Eleven is kind of the E.T. if E.T. were a preteen girl in Indiana. Then, of course, the male kids are a bunch of D&D nerds who love science. I mean, it's so crushingly 80s, it's painful. The lead roles certainly have some solid casting. We definitely get a surprising return to form for Winona Ryder, who's been out of the major spotlight for quite a while, and this is a role that absolutely fits her well, even when she's talking to Christmas lights. Likewise, there's a great leading role by David Harbour as the police chief. Matthew Modine plays the secretive, mad scientist, and he embodies that role really well, with even the evil white hair to prove it. And the young actors, Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, they certainly do hold their own mostly. There are a few moments where it's really hard to take their acting seriously, but that's because, again, they're children, and you're only supposed to be able to accept so much from children, especially when it's so heavily 80s inspired, when kid acting was not nearly at the level that we might have today. The show has a lot of hype, and justifiably so. It is well made, even on a small budget, and being something that really came out of nowhere. Personally, I'm not very keen on 80s iconography or child heroes. Some of the stories from the 80s, like Stand By Me or E.T., are entertaining, but they don't really do a lot for me as something that's endearing. Plus, the show is clearly aimed at a younger audience, or at least teenage audiences. And adults will absolutely enjoy it, and they do, but for the most part, you can tell the show is made for a younger audience. It does have that YA feel to it throughout the series. It certainly gets really cheesy, and certain plot points unfold far too conveniently, namely when the chief breaks into the secret lab, or when Nancy sees the monster in daylight. Those are things that happen way too easily to advance the plot. And I know it's only 8 episodes, but it is very simple at times. It makes it really challenging to get invested in the story when things can happen so easily and the plot can progress with very little earned. And it does feel far too familiar, even when it's doing something new. Bald children with telekinesis falls kind of flat for me. And of course, the monster is generic. It's interesting to wonder what the monster looks like, but as with most things, once you actually see the monster, you're not nearly as afraid of it. I will say, though, I absolutely love the synthy music that they have throughout the show. That 80s vibe feel of the music, I absolutely love that. Overall, Stranger Things is an impressive show as a show that came out of nowhere. But it's also overbearingly cliche at times, even if it's intentional. I understand it's meant to be nostalgic, and I understand that that's part of the charm of the show. Sometimes it's just too cliche at times. In the end, it's basically Fringe meets the E.T. kids in a Stand By Me plot. It's, all those sort of things mixed together. It does have plenty of promise, but it could go off the rails just as well. Like, this is a show that I know that moving forward, they're going to have a lot of fun with this, but they could just as easily go overboard and take this simple premise that they have and just explode it into something that becomes ordinary and uninteresting. The simple aspect of this certainly suits the premise. Say that 5 times fast. Now, there is absolutely plenty of excitement for Season 2, but I'm also preparing for an overreach. I'm preparing for Season 2 to be too big, too overbloated, but hopefully they're going to take the success and take the feedback that they get from the show, and hopefully they'll channel that into something that is just as simple and closed as this story is. I'm not saying they need to make it as easy as this one is. They could certainly use a few intriguing plot elements in this story, but if they can keep it contained the way they did in this season, I think this show could do well for a few seasons. Is it binge-worthy? I'd say it's worth watching over a week. put an episode in a day, you'd probably be fine to get through it, in a week. I certainly watched it in a little over a week, so I think that's a fair amount. It's not something you want to just binge in one sitting. It's, give it a little bit of time. That's my review of Stranger Things. Let me know what you think, if you've seen it, if you like it, if you don't like it, what sort of things really excite you about this show, or why you think it's overrated and the hype is completely unjustified. Let me know either way. Thanks again for watching Bit of the Binge, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to keep up on all of my YouTube videos by clicking subscribe, and if you're already a subscriber, thank you, and you rock. Also visit my homepage at dkessner.com where you can find out about all my various other projects, including my written works. How about that? You can also find me at my social media handles, so drop in and say hi. And again, thank you so much for all your support. Love you.